Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Very good. You want to quickly change places, or you're comfortable where you are? So that was a good conversation. A few questions. How many of you discussed the problem of the other person? Tried to explore solutions? How many of you tried to explore solutions? Can you please raise your hands? Taller. It's okay, you just finished your breakfast. Come on. Very good. How many of you, be honest, okay? How many of you tried to interrupt the other person when that other person is speaking? Thanks for your honesty. Good. How many of you spent more time in framing the solution and helping the other person compared with understanding the problem? Very good. But what were the instructions? They were there right in front of you all the time. The exercise was meant to share your concern with the other person, allow the other person to bounce it back to you, only the concern, and then switch the role. The instructions never asked for discussing solution. I expressly forbade you to not to discuss. Correct? मैं specifically मैंने बताया था आप discuss नहीं करेंगे. And the instruction was just listen and don't offer any solution. Now you see how difficult listening is. How, while the other person is speaking, we are already preparing an answer for what the other person is saying. It happens all the time. And then we complain, कोई मुझे समझता नहीं है, कोई मेरा सुनता नहीं है. But when somebody else wants to talk to us, what do? हम क्या करते हैं? हाँ, कल्याण की भावना है आपके मन में, इनको मदद करना है, वो सही है. That's true. But if you don't understand the problem in first place, how are you going to help that other person? And that also when the other person is not even looking for a solution. We will explore many of these aspects in the next 1 hour. And this is one of the toughest challenges. We hear, but we don't listen. Don't feel bad about it. There's a lot of work that each one of us needs to do. And that is one thing I like. As a student, I define myself quintessentially as a student. तो मैं अपने आप को student मानता हूँ. Why a student? Because there is always one more thing to learn. You know what Vineet was saying yesterday, when you see a problem, you should get excited. So when I see a weakness in me, I get excited because that's going to keep me busy for the next few months. And there is always going to be one more weakness to conquer, which is interesting. Okay? So whatever we are going to discuss today, especially this presentation, if you have any questions in between, please feel free to stop me. But pay attention, because if there is one thing that's going to transform your lives, it's this skill to listen. Just listen. Okay? Listening is not just an act. It's not just an activity. When you listen to the other person, it becomes an act of love. And how does it become an act of love? We will explore that. Now read that. Don't worry about the slide decks. All of them will be emailed, and there's a lot of other reading material in addition to the slide deck that I have given to Raghav. So he's going to email to each one of you all these things, okay? If you listen for hurt, fear, and pain, or for people's hopes and dreams, they're always there. We need to pay attention to listen to those. And when the other person feels you listening and feeling them, right? When the other person, when do you feel heard? When you are speaking, when do you think the other person has heard? आपको कब लगता है कि इसने मेरा सुना, मेरी सुनवाई हुई? When do you feel that? When there is? When there is? Response. What else? Body language. Yes. When you feel that the other person has felt what you're saying. And then when that happens, they will let down their guard and open their minds and hearts to you. Yesterday somebody was asking, can I change someone else? You can't change anyone other than yourself, but you can enable them to change, and one of the best ways is to listen. Now, how to listen? What are some of those principles we should be aware of? How we can implement them? We will discuss those in detail. Correct? That's all we ask for. Any relationship, anywhere, that someone understands me and then give me an opportunity to understand you. Correct? And the best way to understand people is to listen, so that we can understand their story. And one of the greatest gifts that we can give in today's world, there's loads of information. There's loads of talks. You just open YouTube, you have millions and millions of self-help stuff that is available there, and a few thousand self-help books, and every year we have a few more hundreds being published. But that's not what people are looking for. If books can change people, by now the world would have been a much better place. And with each passing year, with each new book coming in, the world's position should have improved. But what's happening to the world with each passing day? You know the reason? You know the reason? One of the most important reasons is we don't have patience to listen. Or the other way around, nobody out there has time and energy to listen to us. And when you genuinely listen, that's the greatest gift that you can give to the other person. And that's what is healing most of the time. It's fascinating when my team members bring me a problem. Most often, what I do is I don't even suggest a solution, because 99% of the times they know what to do. Even for the problem that you have, you also know what to do. There are very few problems where you don't know what to do. Think about it. But when we are sharing with the other person, what we are looking for is a confirmation that what I am thinking is right, and somebody will tell me, go ahead, you do it, you can do it. That's all we are looking for. But we don't express it because ego comes in between. And when we are listening to the other person, like Dumbos, we think, I know the solution. Ab aisa karo. Sab ठीक हो जाएगा. But that fellow is not looking for that. That's why he is dissatisfied. When he walks out, he feels, no, you never heard me. And then you feel, नहीं मैंने सुना, इतना time दिया, सुना, discuss किया और solution भी propose किया, कर तो क्यों नहीं हो? No, he doesn't want your solution. He knows what is the solution. He wants you to listen to that solution and then say, I can do it. See the difference? And that's what I do with most of my team members. I serve only as sounding board, ask questions. Allow them to clarify their position to themselves, not to me. And then when they walk out, now they know what to do. They already knew what to do even before they came into my office. But while walking out, they are confident that they can do it. Because somebody in the place of authority said you can do it. And then they say, you have a problem, you approach Bala, he'll give you a solution. And the interesting irony is, I never give solutions. It's their own solution, they are taking it with them. Because how can I solve your problem? Correct? And the best thing that happens there is it improves the relationship. The person feels heard. They already have the solution because it is their solution. There is that feeling that this is mine, that ownership, and then they start doing it. And more often than not, it solves their problem. So when somebody comes to you with a problem, even if it is a kid, hear them out. Listen. Ask questions. Don't make suggestions to start with because they are not looking for it. And why is it we want people to listen to us? Why does it make us feel good when somebody genuinely listens to us? Does it make feel good or not? When somebody gives time, listens to you, how do you feel? Correct? You feel acknowledged. You feel good. So when we are listened to, we unfold, we blossom, we shine. Why is that? Why is that? Why does it give such a good feeling when somebody listens to us? Need for reception, why? Acceptance, very good. But why acceptance? What else is happening there? When somebody accepts us, when somebody listens to us, we feel accepted, very good. So why does that feeling of acceptance make us feel good? Not necessarily. Think about it. Why? Yes. When somebody listens to me, truly, genuinely listens to me, I feel respected. Respected, very important. That means the mere act of the other person listening to me is that person giving me his respect. He is respecting me. He is respecting my thoughts, my ideas. He is not cutting me off. He is not trying to give me solution. And that respect is what makes us feel good. You check anything that makes you feel good, at the heart of it is a way where you will feel respected, where you will feel loved, where, in spiritual terms, if you ask, it's not a bad word, bad phrase, but where you feel your ego is stroked. That's when you feel good. So when you feel when they listen, correct, there will always be a case where the other person is less qualified or you have a better option. But the best way to do that is first listen to them. Allow them to give their options and then gently present it. Have you explored this? There is a difference between saying do this and giving that responsibility to the other person so that the other person owns it up. Did you try this? Maybe you may want to try this. You see the difference? Because that is not threatening. Even though the other person wants the solution, he doesn't want you to hurt his or her ego, however below the rung he is. When you say, I'm your boss, I'm telling you, you do this, somewhere you are hurting that ego. Somewhere you are showing, I am better than you. That feeling is what creates the problem. But when you remove it and say, this is another option. Do you want to try it? I don't know, but I feel that this might work. You want to give it a shot? Then what happens? That person will own it up. You just put it on the table. Then that subtle feeling that I am greater, you are lesser. मैं आपसे बड़ा हूं, मैं आपसे बड़ा knowledgeful हूं. That feeling you are not bringing in. And that's important. So your idea that he should follow what you are saying will be achieved when you let go of the attachment to your idea. It's counterintuitive, but that's how it works. That's how we people are. So you are saying you are the listener. Okay. And the other person doesn't listen. You suggest?
Maybe they don't do it.
Well, I am speaking. No, I am speaking. You are not listening. What should I do then? What should I do? I have only control on myself. I can't make you listen. Even if it is my kid, I can't make him listen. Suno, bolo. We know that nothing is going inside, so it's a choice you have. But if you are a listener, you have the control. So this is all about listening. Is that right? नहीं, आप हिंदी में बोलना चाहते हैं तो बोलिए हिंदी में. हाँ, देखिए, मैं आपकी बात सुन रहा हूं या नहीं सुन रहा हूं वो मेरे हाथ में है. ठीक है? अगर मुझे ही आपको सुनाना है, so tough luck, because I'm not interested in listening. And what to do in that case, I don't know. What should you do? I don't know. Maybe you can search for somebody else. Okay? Maybe you might want to write it down and then send it as an email. Or if I'm a WhatsApp user, you can put some nice pictures and then in that picture write your concern and mail it to me so that I can read. I don't know. I have no way of telling you how you should make a person listen to you if he or she doesn't want to listen. वो अभी तक टेक्निक कोई आया नहीं है. At least I don't know. But over a period of time, the way you can make him listen to you is when he comes to you next time, जब वो आपके पास अपना कंसर्न सुनाने के लिए आता है, अगर आप उनको सुनेंगे तो नेक्स्ट टाइम वो आपकी बात सुनने के चांसेस बढ़ेंगे. वो सुनेगा ऐसा नहीं, चांसेस बढ़ेंगे बस. ठीक है? After the session, you should suggest it, brother.
He can meditate and pass vibrations to that.
Okay. We'll move on. Yeah. हाँ. पर वो शेयर करना नहीं चाहते तो आपको कैसे पता? नहीं, अगर वो शेयर करना नहीं चाहते हैं तो आप कैसे जानते हैं कि वो मुझसे शेयर करेगा तो उसको पीस मिलेगी? That's okay, but let them open up, na? Provide that environment. Why should I extract that problem from you? When you are not yet ready, बोलो, बोलो. नहीं यार, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, नहीं मैं दिख रहा है, मुझे दिख रहा है. No. भैया कल्याण की भावना हो, लेकिन इतना ना हो कि आप उनसे खींचने की कोशिश करो. नहीं. That won't work. We'll move on. You will know that. As we move ahead, you will know that. And not only the person who is listened to, but whoever is listening will also transform. They will also feel good when we listen to. And then listening becomes an act of love. Most of our problems in our life, you can check yourself, they happen in relationships because either we don't listen or the other person is not listening. If this listening part can be corrected, if we can learn what listening is, then our life is actually going to become much, much better and richer. And this is where those two concepts of attention and self-talk, they get linked. Let's move on. When we truly listen to others, what are the other benefits? Very important. मेरी आप सुनते नहीं हो, मैं आपकी क्यों सुनूं? किसी और को सुनाओ, जाओ. So when we listen, the probability of they listening to us increases. It deepens and sometimes even transforms the relationship. Because there is that aspect of respect involved. When that other person feels respected, loved, accepted, then it becomes easier for them to scratch the surface and go deeper. And that's how the relationship becomes stronger. Many a times it even heals the emotional nature. Because nobody is ready to listen to them. In the world out there, people are not looking for speakers. They're tired of listening. They want to speak so that the other person can listen. And if you can become a good listener, trust me, you will be the best person whom people would want to have you as their friend. Just listen. And most often, some of the people who come to me, I don't speak a word. I switch off my mobile, tell my receptionist not to connect any calls to me, switch off my computer, put my hands on the table, look straight into the eyes, and then say, I am yours for the next half an hour or whatever time you have taken. Now speak. Makes a huge difference. You're listening, you're checking your messages, you're answering your phone, you're answering your mobile, typing your document. That's totally wrong way. If you can't, then don't. Do something else, and when you are free, only then call the other person. Because otherwise you're hurting them. Once I took my friend who was having some depression concerns. We went to the doctor. We were there for 3 minutes. In that, he took 4 phone calls within 3 minutes time. And then he was trying to check his email and then saying, bolo, bolo. We paid the consultation fee. And whatever prescription he gave, as soon as we came out, we tore it, put it in the dustbin and walked out. I told my friend, this is not the doctor, I'll take you to somebody else. Such an important skill, and then you think you can just listen, you don't even listen and you can just give me some stupid prescription? No, it doesn't work. Very important. When we listen, it increases our capacity to help others. And you will be able to understand yourself at a lot more deeper level. The reason why most of us are scared of listening is because what we listen, we feel might change us, and we don't want to change. That's why interrupt the other person from speaking. I said, when I'm going to listen to you, and I know, say for example, take a trivial example. You like Shah Rukh Khan, I don't like Shah Rukh Khan. And then you want to talk about Shah Rukh Khan. I will never even allow you to speak. Because if I listen, you might change me, and I might start liking Shah Rukh Khan. And I don't want to like Shah Rukh Khan. That is why I will not even allow you to speak. That's the most important problem we have in listening. Because we are scared. When we listen, we may have to change. And listening gives you more time, whatever you have been hearing or listening in the last couple of days, to become soul conscious, where you can focus yourself, you can center yourself, and then listen to the other person. And whatever we learn, 40% of it happens through listening. 35% through talking, 16% through reading, and only 9% through writing. Most of the time, whatever we learn happens through listening. And 75% of this 40%, we don't listen properly. That's the sad part. And of all the time we spend in communication, the greatest is listening. And of that, we are not listening. You saw that. When I asked you as a part of exercise just to listen and paraphrase, you started discussing about the solution. And thinking about listening, when you look at listening, when I'm listening to you, If I feel that I am performing an act of love, I'm giving you something in return, then what happens is that places a completely new emphasis on value of listening, and our capacity to listen expands. Because if I feel listening to you is a burden and you are wasting my time, I will not focus, I will not pay attention. But if I feel listening to you is a way that I am going to give something back to you, it's a gift I am giving you in the form of my time, effort, and attention, then what happens? Because giving is always more joyful compared to receiving. So when I think in my mind that listening to you is actually giving a gift to you, then what happens to my listening capability? It doesn't become a waste, because it's a gift, I'm giving it to you. That's why when we gift to people, what do we do that? We gift wrap it properly, correct? And then we try to give the best. That is why we call it as a gift, so that the other person feels good. And that's what happens when we start looking at listening as more as giving, not as wasting time. Any guess? What is the first rule to effectively listen? Pay attention, very good. Look straight into the eyes, body language, very good. Empathy, very good. Silent yourself first, very good. Sorry? Not forming any opinion about the other person, very good. Be patient. Make the other person comfortable. Cleaning your own thoughts, very good. All that is summarized in this listen itself. That's the first rule to listen. If you want to set aside your own opinions, you're trying to be mentally silent. When you want to keep quiet, physically you are being silent. When you are not judging what the other person is saying, you are again being silent internally. So the first rule, if you want to effectively listen, is to be silent. Again, it's simple, but not easy. You have to work towards it. And the rewards, trust me, are really, really great. It's worth the effort for us to learn how to listen, how to make it silent, and that's where meditation helps. Make it silent. Don't try to impose your thoughts, your ideas on the other person. Each one of us is unique, and allow them to be themselves. That's another beautiful thing that listening does. When you listen, by not imposing your thoughts and your ideas, you are allowing the other person, you are acknowledging the uniqueness of the other person. And that's the most beautiful gift you can give. Correct? For those few minutes that you are listening, that other person becomes your world. Very, very important. My role is not to rescue or give solutions, but it is to help them recall and turn towards their own inner resources. And this happens when you listen and not discuss and not try to give solutions. This is the greatest form of help that we can give to anyone. हमें उनकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप अच्छी तरह से सुनो तो उनको खुद को शक्ति मिलेगी अपने प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने की, because you will become a sounding board. When the other person pays attention, we are nurtured and we are valued in that gift of another's attention. When the other person is listening, that means they are paying attention to me. That means for those few minutes, I am the most important person in the world for them. That's the beauty of listening. जब मैं आपको सुनता हूं ध्यान से, 5 मिनट के लिए, 10 मिनट के लिए, 15 मिनट के लिए, वो 15 मिनट में क्या हो गया? मेरे लिए, जो मैं आपको सुन रहा हूं, मेरे लिए इस संसार में आपसे ज्यादा कोई और चीज या व्यक्ति इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. And that touches people. That's why it is so important in terms of looking straight into the eyes, remove all your distractions and then pay attention. Because by paying attention, you are making them feel valued. You are making them feel important. Extremely important. Yes, sister. You tell me, what worked for you so far? What works? Suppose you put yourself in your boss's shoes. And then you are saying something which from your perspective is right to your team member. Why your team member? To your own maid. You have a maid at home? You are your maid's boss, yeah? So you're telling your maid. She didn't do the washing properly. So you're telling her. If the maid feels you are speaking out of ego, and then she wants to correct you, and she'll correct you when you are telling her, will you feel right?
But the maid didn't wash properly. Then only she is saying to the maid.
Yeah, but that's what you are thinking. No, but that's what you're thinking. It's not absolute truth, because the maid will say, within the given time and the resources, that's the best I could do. We are going back to this concept, and this is something, very good question. And this I want all of us to, think about, churn about it, even after you go home. When you want to help another person, very important rule of thumb. When I want to help another person, don't make them feel bad about their current state. Then they will not listen. Because you already hurt their ego. You already made them fall in your eyes. Because in your opinion, you are already going with an opinion, aap galat, main sahi. And from that perspective, when you are trying to share, ये मेरे लिए, आपके लिए कह रहा हूं ना, आप सुनते क्यों नहीं हो? No, they won't listen. Because you already hurt their ego and then shut them off. Put yourself in that other person's position. When somebody comes to you and then says, you are going to Brahma Kumaris, या ऐसा ऐसा करते हैं, रविशंकर अच्छा है ब्रह्मा कुमारी से, मैं सुनाऊंगा आपको. Will you listen? From his opinion, he is right. So you are supposed to listen to him, right? But you don't. Because you already switch your mind off. Because you know he doesn't like what you like. So never approach a person from this surety that I am right, you are wrong. It will never work. Put it on the table. And that's where that being silent comes from. Suspend the judgment. Because that judgment is what creates the most amount of problems in relationships. But at least your ego is in your hands, brother. You can sit and meditate. See, I thought I will share that as we move forward, but now that you asked a question, I will answer that and I will repeat it then. And this is very important. I want all of you to make a note of it, and it's helped me personally in my life a lot. Accepting somebody. When I listen, I'm accepting. Accepting somebody is not agreeing with that somebody. There's a huge difference. Let me clarify the other way around. Suppose, say you give me a suggestion and I reject your suggestion. Does that mean I am rejecting you or I am rejecting only your suggestion? Correct? I'm rejecting only your suggestion. I'm disagreeing with your suggestion. I'm not rejecting you. Now reverse it. When I listen to an idea which I don't like or which I don't agree with, listening is a form of acceptance. Listening is a form of respecting your idea even if I disagree with it. By listening, I am not telling you that I am agreeing with you. I don't have to agree.
Even internally, I am not accepting that.
Not needed. No. Your acceptance means you are respecting the other person's idea and then giving the respect for that idea by listening. But you don't necessarily have to agree. Because that is where most of us make this mistake. अगर मैं उसका बात सुना तो वो समझेगा मैं उसका बात माना, इसलिए मुझे मानना नहीं है ना, तो इसलिए सुनना ही नहीं है. You see the biggest mistake, the subtle mistake we make? But the beauty is, even if you want to disagree, the chances of that person accepting your disagreement increase when you accept that other person's idea, listen to it, and then say, now I heard you, can I share my thoughts? So the probability of that person accepting our disagreement increases because you have respected. It is going from the position of respect. You see the beauty? Sorry?
Brother, my question is that if somebody is doing a leg pulling, and so in that situation, how can you apply your effective listening skills?
Somebody is doing what?
Leg pulling.
Leg pulling, okay. Huh. Now,
so how you apply your effective listening skill on that particular circumstances?
if you can, maybe we can do that a little later. Let me complete the presentation. You will get the idea yourself. If you didn't get it, towards the end, we will have a conversation. Yeah? See, the quality of speaker does not and should not influence the quality of listening. Even though it does, if you want to become a good listener, you can become a good listener for anyone in the world. Correct. Correct.
So that depends if she is a good listener or depends on the quality of speaker.
Correct.
Whether the speaker is speaking rudely or politely, that makes her the good listener.
Very good. So here there are two roles. Two roles. A speaker or listener. Now, when you are speaker, don't speak rudely because you know the other person won't listen. Correct? But when you are listener, don't worry too much about their emotion. Because when you speak rudely, you wanted the other person to listen, right? So when you are listener, listen to them. Yeah? Reverse the role. When you are in the driving, whatever is in your control, this is one beautiful thing which I learned from Brahma Kumaris. I will focus on what's in my control. Even when I prepare these slide decks and these talks, I always tell myself, my role is to prepare and share. You might sleep, you might walk out, you might not even clap. Of course, you won't slap, but you won't clap. I have absolutely no control. I tell a joke, and you will simply stare at me. Only I am laughing. I have no control. I have seen some of my friends in the beginning, not now, where my classmates, when I made them sit down and said, I want to give you a talk. So I cracked a nice joke. They purposefully didn't laugh. I have no clue, right? So whatever is in my control, that's all I will do. We will do that next time. Okay? So listening, another important thing. I'll give you the time. Let's move on. I'll give you time. Very important, like all the other skills, listening is a learned skill. And that's why it is difficult. It requires energy. It requires discipline. It's a choice I make. If I want to make my own life richer and make the people's life around me richer, then I must invest my time and energy in it. And most important, the demanding aspect of communication and also the most rewarding. And that is the most demanding aspect of the communication and also the most rewarding. Because effective listening is active, it's not passive. Because you are nodding, you are respecting, you are asking questions to understand. You are not giving solutions. Listening is not, acha bolo. भाई सुन रहे हो? हाँ सुन रहा हूँ बोलो. You don't nod, you say even on phone when you are speaking, are you there? If there is no noise from the other side, what will you ask? Are you there? Arey, kam se kam haan to bol yaar. So it's active. It's not passive. We should not misunderstand listening as being passive. And I'll share a document about this, AAA listening. I won't go into the too much details. The 3 A's which will make any listening effective are with what attitude, how much attention you're paying, and how much you're willing to adjust yourself to the speaker. Attitude, attention, and adjustment. Those 3 form the 3 A's of good listening. And there are many barriers, many problems that come in our way when we try to listen. We want to listen, but there are many barriers. And some of those, resistance to listening tends to be our cultural norm. Why? Because if I listen, always we highlight speakers more than listeners. We think speaking is power, listening is weakness. We are often taught speaking represents action, power. Listening means weakness. That's why I don't want to listen, I only want to speak. But it's not that. Listening requires a lot more power, lot more strength than speaking. Anybody can speak any rubbish, big deal. But to listen, it requires energy. And we discussed at length about these yesterday and even day before. Most often, it is our beliefs that form a big barrier to our listening. When we are not aware of how our beliefs influence what we value and our attitude towards certain behavior, we find it difficult to listen to other person's point of view. Because his beliefs will interfere in the process of our listening. Listening means to lay aside your own views and values in order to enter another's world. That's the toughest part. This is where the difference between acceptance and agreement comes. I don't have to agree with you, but that does not mean I should not accept you. You know, when I sit across the table with my boss, I've been working for the same boss for the last nearly 18 years now. So he knows what is it that I like, and I know what is it that he likes and he dislikes. When there are certain things which he wants me to do, and he knows that I don't like, he calls me into his office and then he says, Bala, I know you don't like this, but this is something important I want you to do. And then we agree to disagree in this matter. It's okay, go and do it. So he acknowledges the disagreement up front. Yeah, most of us, what we feel is, in order to take the relationship forward, we must agree with everything. That's the stupidest way of life. We don't have to agree with anything. But what we need to do is, we should agree to disagree without getting hurt. That's the beauty in any relationship, whether at workplace or at home. What helps me to agree to disagree is the kind of attachment I have to my opinions. When I recognize that the other person also has the same kind of attachment for their opinions, then I'll start developing respect. That's most important. That's all is the insight that we need to always remember. Most often, that's what slips through the cracks, unfortunately. I am important. My opinion is important. That's exactly the same thing with the other person too. So it's very important during listening that you notice what are your green lights, what are your red lights. If these are the things that come across, that disturbs me, so I need to be a little more careful. If these are the things, these are the kinds of people, it's easier for me to listen and have a conversation. When you are aware, you will not allow your red lights to interfere with your listening. This is what I was talking about. Listen for understanding. You don't have to agree. If there is one lesson from today's conversation on listening, it is this. If you can remember this, you will become really good listeners. Why? Because you are no longer afraid to listen. I am afraid to listen because I think if I listen, I have to change. No, you don't have to change. Correct? When that burden is gone, जब मुझे कोई दबाव नहीं है मेरे ऊपर कि सुनने से मुझे आपकी माननी पड़ेगी, वो दबाव चला जाता है. And then it becomes very free. I'm just listening. That's okay. That is the biggest mistake we do. When we listen, we think we must agree with that person. No, you don't have to. Acceptance is not agreement. That's my principle. You can't pretend. Pretending will cost you a lot more of your energy and the other person will walk out. Try it out. You can't pretend. If you want to pretend and make the other person feel that you are listening, then you must be a really good actor. Hats off to you. It's not easy pretending. Try it. We keep coming back to this point about what should I do about the other person. What is the answer? What's in your control? Yeah. One more thing. I'm assuming that this is so useful that you're saying he didn't hear my lecture. This is going to be available after 1 o'clock in the form of recording. Gift them this DVD. That's in your control. Correct. Because that's what is in your control. Correct. Okay, this is most important. Listening is not agreeing, and acceptance is not agreement. I can listen and disagree with you, which is fine. And this is another very important aspect, why listening becomes so tough. When you get into communication, when you get into talking, when your motivation in communicating is to win, your communication with the other person is doomed to fail. Correct? We meet some kind of that kind of people. Everything becomes a win-lose situation or a battle with them. In every small thing, they have to win. Every small thing. Then what happens? You can never have any meaningful conversation. And if you are like this, you may have to change. Because otherwise, you will never be able to connect with the other person. And that's why it said, listen for understanding, not agreement. And it should always be win-win. It's never win-lose or lose-win. And what does listening from inside out mean? First thing is, be silent. Suspend your judgment. Don't jump to conclusions. When somebody says something to you, most often what happens is what they are saying and what they are meaning are totally different. You might have seen that. They'll say one thing, but they mean something else. So when they said something, to clarify what they are saying and what they are meaning, the best way is paraphrase it. Is this what you mean? Then the other person will say, no, that is not what I meant. I said that, but that's not what I meant. Let me clarify. It's a good listening practice to paraphrase what the other person has said to understand. Is this what you mean? And if you are managers, this is another tip. If you are managers and you are working with your team members, one of the first things that you are going to do, if you want to make sure that your team member has understood, encourage that team member to repeat what you just said. Any task you give, whatever outcome that you are looking for from your team member, encourage your team member to repeat. So when they are repeating, if there is any mismatch in what you expect and what that other person has understood, you can change it. Otherwise, what happens? We listen to the boss, or people listen to us. If I am the boss, they'll just walk out, taking their own understanding without me knowing whether they understood it or not. And if you are a team member, equally important, when your boss asks you to do something, you repeat it. Sir, is this what you want? Because most often bosses are notorious. They will say something and then they mean something else. Don't do what I ask you to do. Do what I want you to do. That seems to be the boss's motto. That's why the best way to clarify is repeat. Sir, is this what you want me to do? No, 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 not that. Then what? That's what you just said. Then you will remain safe, both as a boss and as a team member. And that's where this paraphrasing becomes so much important. And listen for feelings, how they are feeling, not just the kind of words they are using. Give that undivided attention. We discussed at length about it. And when you are listening with authentic heart, you are telling that person, I care for you. I may not agree with you. Again, I'm bringing that back, but I care for you. And then you're curious. Tell me more. Okay, okay. What next? Shift from an internal stance of I understand to help me understand. Another beautiful thing. Most often we are so impatient, when the other person is speaking, we break them halfway and say, समझ गया. And then the other fellow, कुछ नहीं समझा है. नहीं मैं समझ गया. नहीं समझा है. मैंने बात ही पूरा नहीं किया. नहीं मैं समझ गया. No. It's very difficult to understand another person. Trust me. So don't move from this stance of I understand to help me understand. Be curious. And that's one of the ways you can become good listeners, by being curious. Good. So that brings us to the end of our conversation today. That's what listening does. Yeah? So most of you were asking for my email ID. There it is. Yeah, I'll give you the mic, sister. 1 second.
Yeah, initially you said when the team comes to you, you have an ear to listen to them. You make them understand what they know is right, or they already have the solution. But what I feel is I was trying to correlate it with what I have seen in my experience. Okay, I also come from IT. I am also from the IT industry. See, when it comes to, we all know what is risk, project risk, all that we know. We also have a mitigation plan for the risks we have. In case of mitigation planning, yes, I can listen to anybody and everybody because I have to plan for my risk. When it comes to contingency planning, because damage has already occurred, I have very less time to solve the problem.
Yes.
If I start listening to everybody around, do you think I will be making the right decision? Because time is very crucial for me. I cannot listen to everybody in the world. And with our experiences, we call all experts, or few of us get together and then discuss the problem. We immediately take the decision.
Yes.
The decision is very important in those cases.
Perfect.
How do you think this listening will help in case of contingency planning?
Very good. What we discussed so far is what is applicable in general. As a boss managing about $100 million business for my parent company with 70 people reporting to me, I also get into those kind of situations where there is a time for me to listen and there is a time for me to make a decision and say, now you listen to me. There's a line you draw. It depends on the situation. But this situation is more of an exception and not a norm. So, as a boss, you should be intelligent enough to see where you're going to make the decision and then impose it on your team. And even while you're imposing it on your team, you explain the factors. That makes a big difference for the buy-in. And in English, there is a very simple saying, allow me to weigh in if you want my buy-in. Very simple. Allow me to weigh in with my opinion if you want my buy-in. So yes, I agree with you. There are few situations where I cannot go around the town asking for everyone's opinion and then saying, you tell me, I will listen. It's an act of love and all that stuff. None of that will work. I have to make a decision. something is really, really going wrong, we have to be quick and do it. Yes, you will do it. Correct.
Just wants to ask कि समटाइम हमें कुछ लगता है कि बच्चों को ये अच्छा है ये बुरा है उनको हम कुछ बताने की एडवाइस करने की कोशिश करते हैं कि जल्दी उठो रात को जल्दी सो जाओ इंटरनेट ज़्यादा यूज़ मत करो बट दे डोंट लिसन तो हाउ टू मेक देम अंडरस्टैंड कि व्हाट वी आर सेइंग इज राइट और दे शुड लिसन टू अस वो कहेंगे जी हमारी मर्जी या कुछ भी आगे से या आर्गूमेंट करेंगे तो हाउ टू मेक देम कंफर्टेबल पोजीशन की मेक देम अंडरस्टैंड कि what is right and what is wrong.
Do you want an honest answer?
Yeah.
You're okay with that? I do. Because each kid today is so different. There are no set of principles. And without knowing your kids and without interacting with them, there's no way I can suggest something because it might even backfire. I don't know. But one thing that I know is if you're presenting it in a way without hurting their ego, by allowing them to share their opinion, their perspective, the chances of their listening to you will increase. I'm very careful with my words. I'm sorry if I disappointed you, but that's the best answer I have. Sorry, sister, 1 second. He wants to ask.
At times in our relationships, or if we come across somebody unknown, there might be like in South it says that people are direct talkers, or in US people are direct talkers, but in India indirect talks are there. Like they wanted to say something and they will say something else. So how to recognize and how to handle that scenario to do better communication with them?
One of the techniques that I found useful is what you saw in terms of paraphrasing. When you want to understand, repeat it. Even after repeating, if they are trying to say something and mean something else, God help. There's no way I can change that. Yeah? Okay, the sister there. Go ahead. Okay, those who wanted to ask me questions, if you still remember what we discussed yesterday, you can ask me questions for those also. Yes.
Okay, so yesterday you spoke about multitasking.
Yes.
And that is one of the attention slices that we do. So one question is when you wear multiple hats, it could be different functions or different roles in your current role. It is not just operations, it is BD and blah, blah, blah. So, and you have to do multiple tasks at the same time. How do you manage that? What is the way that you manage?
Can you clarify what you mean when you say multiple tasks at the same time? You playing multiple roles, I understand. But multiple tasks at the same time, can you clarify that?
So, for example, there is one task pending at the client end, one task pending in operations, and they have the same deadlines. You have to meet them. You have to, work with your maybe subordinate. You have to work with your own self on your work. How do you handle those situations?
What was the principle we discussed yesterday? What is the best way to handle those kind of tasks? You did the exercise also, if I recall.
Yes, I did.
What was most effective?
Concentrate on the colors only. At that time, concentrate on one task.
Yes. At that point of time, you decide for the next half an hour, I will focus on this task. Every few minutes, if you want to run and then check with your operations folks, kya hua hai? And then come here and say, kya hua hai? Kuch nahi hoga. Only your running around happens. You allow them for half an hour or 1 hour, focus with one team, and then move to the next one. So doing multiple tasks one after the other is different from interleaving those tasks so constantly that you are slicing and dicing your attention. That doesn't work.
And one more question is that when for example, in my case, I want to pay attention and I am interested in that work, but there are still a lot of mistakes that happens, in the work that I do. So how to manage that, and what do you think could be the reasons? I'm not able to understand the reason for that actually.
Can you please repeat?
So, for example, I'm doing, task. I have been given a task and I deliver it. There are a lot of mistakes that happens. Even if I say that I have, checked it thrice, but there could be a mistake. So, and I am trying that I pay attention. I read it thrice. My attention was there, but still it happens. What could be the reason for that?
I don't know the reason, but I can tell you how to avoid that.
Okay.
The best way to avoid, which I also do when any task, especially if it is document, especially it is some piece of work that I do, is to be open to show it to someone else. A fresh pair of eyes will always spot things that I am not able to spot. I must have gone through the document 10 times. But when I give it once to my colleague and then say, can you please check? Immediately he will spot 5, 6, 7. I was going through it, but I was just looking at it. So the best way, if there is a possibility, is to involve a different pair of eyes.
There also it becomes a problem. The pair of eyes that is to see it, is only my boss. There's no one else I can show it to, because some documents are very confidential. And that's where it becomes a problem. Okay, you were not expected that it will be a mistake.
Yeah. No, meditation helps, but not always. If I were in your position, you might want to try this, but I don't know whether it works or not. What I would do is each time I submit a task to my boss, I'll put in a disclaimer. Right? Because if I am saying that this is a perfect document on earth, go look at it, and he finds a first mistake, he'll go mad. But I will say, this is a work in progress, I need your help. It's exactly the same piece of work, but what expectation I am setting makes a huge difference to the response. That's the best we can do.
Okay, thank you.
And
I'm having a 12 years old daughter. She's in the
sorry?
I'm having 12 years old daughter.
Okay.
She's in the 8th standard.
Okay.
And since 5th standard, I'm going to the school.
Huh.
And the complaint which I'm receiving is that your daughter is not paying the attention.
Okay.
And whenever we ask something, what I explained just now, she is able to answer.
Okay.
Because her attention is there, but her physical posture is not in a way so that the other students are getting affected. She is not at all getting affected.
Okay.
She knows everything. Whenever, anytime if you ask her a question, she will reply.
Okay.
But because of her doing something or the other students are getting affected.
Okay.
So I'm not in a position to convince my daughter, because as soon as I say something to her, she'll say, but I know everything now.
Correct.
So I don't know how to convince her.
Interestingly, in the last few years, what scientists have found is there's something called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It is at various levels that they have seen with the kids. And those kids are capable, but they cannot focus attention on one single thing for a long time. There are therapies, there are medications, but you need to take her to a qualified doctor who can observe her during the school. You don't necessarily have to go with what the teacher says, because usually in our education system, there is no place for uniqueness. You have to be one in the herd. If you are a part of the group, then you're good. If you stand out even a little bit, you're chopped off. So you need to decide, if you want to observe your kid, whether what teacher is complaining is right or not. And if it is serious enough, then you may have to even take medical help. Or you might even want to decide if there is a possibility to change the school itself. We don't know.
No, because when I am also teaching her, she will have one ball with her.
Yeah.
And she'll be moving around and she'll say, okay, you throw the question, I'll answer.
Good.
So that is how it works.
Yeah, because the biggest
I'm
problem,
in the agreement
sister,
of the teacher.
Yeah, because the biggest problem, sister, what happens is we haven't yet mastered the art of understanding the kids' requirements. We have a certain belief system with which we were grown up, and what we observe in the society, and that is how we want our kids also to grow up. If you have listened to Vineet yesterday, that's what he was saying. My mom always encouraged that irrational behavior in me. She always said, you are separate, and she acknowledged. If she is listening and that's what she likes it, maybe that's what she likes it. We don't know. So don't force kids for every single thing to follow the norm in the society.
I just want to say that to be a good listener, we need energy. And for that, we need some peace. So what should be the procedure to get mental peace so that we can come in a state that we can be a good listener?
You tell me, what is it that you learned in the last 2 days?
I tried to be patient, tried to take proper rest. But there are situations when we don't get that proper rest.
Correct.
So I just want to have something like that, that I can continue it and have that energy in me to listen properly.
2 things, very important. Listening is definitely energy intensive. Go ahead, complete, then I will speak. Keep yourself well fed with good nutritious food. When you are, no, it's true. When brain runs low on glucose, you can't focus. Make sure that you are not hungry when you have to have an important conversation. You can't listen. Trust me. Maybe that I will include in the slide deck. It's very important that you are well fed and you have that physical energy.
Yeah.
So that answers your energy question.
Yeah.
Second, even if you haven't got enough rest and you want to listen to the other person, you can always tell the other person to come a few minutes later. You have many relaxation tapes that are available. You can just switch on one of the tapes for 10 minutes, put it on your mobile phone, listen to it, relax, and then say, now you speak.
Okay,
It's always in our hands. Yeah?
Yeah. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much. Om Shanti. When you're watching